Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Xanthe Williams, and I'm one of the co-founders of Fourth Day PR. We're a public relations agency specializing in the B2B sector, particularly in tech. And what we do is we help our clients to raise their profiles in their chosen markets wherever they are around the world. Geographically, we're based primarily in London and Paris and Manchester. But we also have people on the ground in Brisbane, Australia, in Berlin, in Germany, and also in Casablanca in Morocco. I'm joined today by one of our lovely clients, Vic Heyward, who's head of brand at technology company Bright. And as you're in the marketing sector, you may have already come across their products, Asset Bank and Dash. And Vic's going to talk about PR from a marketer's point of view and how it can be useful in the B2B sector. Before I begin, if you have any questions that you want to pose during the session, just put them into the chat or into the Q&A, and we'll see if we can answer them as we go along. So Vic, thank you again for joining us.
You're very, very welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
Perhaps you could start by giving us a little bit of background on Bright and on your role there. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So Bright is an established software company. We're based in Brighton in the UK, and we build basically digital asset management solutions, which I think is probably one of the best marketing tools that people have never heard of, but it always feels that way, and that's one of the reasons we work with a PR agency, because it's a really great product, but a lot of the time we get sort of confused by financial services and things. So essentially digital asset management, or DAM as it's known, is sort of software that enables you to store all of your brand's digital files, so whether that be videos, images, audio, whatever it is, documents as well, in one place. So it's like a central source of truth, I suppose, for your brand. So if you're a brand manager or you're working in marketing, having a DAM solution or a DAM system is an essential way to sort of manage your brand. So it's great for brand assets. So basically, if you don't have one and you're like a brand manager, you probably need one. It will make your life a lot easier. So yeah, that's what we do. So our brand is called Bright. And underneath that, we have two software products, and our flagship product is called Asset Bank, which is one of the reasons sometimes you get confused with the financial services because of sort of financial assets. And then our other product is called Dash. So they're two sort of digital asset management solutions. One's for more sort of growing brands, and one's more for, I suppose, enterprise brands. So yeah, it's quite an exciting space to work in. It's quite a crowded market, but we do really good work, we think, hoping to make people's days a little bit more inspiring and productive with our software.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit about, just to fill everybody in a little bit on the marketing setup there, how your team's structured?
Sure. So there are 5 of us in the marketing team, and I'm responsible for the Bright brand, which is the mother brand. We have a marketing assistant as well. We have our CMO, Angela, and we have 2 product marketers as well that are focused primarily on each of the products, but we work very collaboratively together to make sure that anything we're doing on a brand building perspective is also reflected within the product strategy as well. So it's a lovely team. We're quite a new team actually, because we've had a few changes and we've welcomed some new people in over the past year, which has been great. Because I know that a lot of people weren't really hiring a lot, but we feel like we've been hiring loads, which has been brilliant. So yeah, we've got a lovely team of people, and it's really exciting that I feel like we're really getting some traction now with the work that we're doing.
It's all good stuff. On talking about PR, let's go straight, cut to the chase.
Straight to PR.
Before you started working with Fourth Day, had you got PR at Bright? I can't remember now. Tell me.
Historically, we'd used a PR agency, and it was quite funny when I started talking about the idea about hiring a PR agency. The response that I got was, we've worked with PR agencies before, it didn't really work. So we probably don't really need one. And I'd been instructed by our CMO to find a PR agency, but with a variety of different things under the bonnet that she wanted, and I wasn't really sure if you did those things. So I remember speaking to you about it, and you were like, "No, we don't do that," because I thought sort of cast net quite wide, saying, "Oh, well, I think you can send press releases, but also you probably do programmatic advertising as well." And I didn't really know about any of the stuff. So Yeah, we've not used a PR agency before, and I think, we had used one, but not great success. And I don't think that was down to the PR agency at all. I think that we hadn't really got a strategy together of what we wanted to do. We hadn't really got a focus, so it was quite hard for that to work, and then it also makes the relationship quite difficult. So yeah, it felt almost, even though we had done that in the past, it felt like this is a brand new thing for us, and that's sort of how I approached it, really, not thinking about anything that we'd done before, just let's start afresh.
Yes, I think if I remember correctly, our discussions were all about trying to hammer out what we could do for you and what we couldn't do for you, and then finding a way forward from there. And so when you did start working with a PR agency, which happened to be Fourth Day,
yes,
what did you want it to do? What remind us of the final, what you decided PR could do for you as a B2B?
I think when I was thinking about what it could do, I think I was thinking about what the brief would be. And our main focus really was, there are a couple of things. So one of them is we were creating a load of really interesting content. And I was really conscious that it wasn't really going that far. So I wanted to talk to a PR agency about the content that we were creating, and if there was stuff that we were doing in-house that would be interesting and relevant to people out there. We're aware that we need to do some brand building. So we rebranded a few years ago and became Bright. We were historically called Bright Interactive, and we had a bit of a reshift around, and that's how the Bright mother brand came about. But no one really knew who Bright were. People knew who Asset Bank were, one of our products, because they were using our product, but we had no real proper brand awareness. So for me, the idea of using a PR agency was sort of to start doing some brand building exercises, just to sort of, I suppose, start casting the net a little bit wider, but also to sort of educate people about what digital asset management was. So that was part of the brief. Is I remember talking to you about it, and you were saying, "Oh God, like, it sounds like a really good product." I'm like, it is a good product, but no one knows what it is. What does it mean? And DAM sounds sort of quite, I don't know, it just sounds a bit sort of industrial and a bit difficult to understand. And a lot of people call it, like an image library or a brand hub or something like that. People have different names for this sort of product in their business, but DAM as a term is probably quite popular in the US, but certainly in sort of UK, Europe, it's not as popular. So I wanted to work with PR agency really to sort of start doing some education pieces, obviously getting us featured in industry sort of relevant places. So we wanted to work with you on articles, or an agency on articles where we could place being put on websites and that, link building activities. But these were all things I'd sort of heard of and knew that we needed to do, but I didn't really have a very coherent strategy or know how to go about it. And that's sort of where we needed your help, is to look at that structure and work out a plan of where to begin. But I think, the brief was pretty clear. I think it was brand building for the Bright brand, plus education. And that theme has rolled through, I think, a lot of the strategy. So over the past year or so, we've been working together. We've looked at, different focuses for every sort of 3 to 6 months, but then actually it does often come back to the education piece still, because I still think that's a massive area of growth.
It does, and it'd be interesting to know if only we could do a poll of our listeners to find out how many of them do know what that digital asset management actually means.
It would be interesting to know, because I mean, for us, when we hire, when we're hiring marketing people, one of the funniest things was that, we've been hiring people in the interview process, and we say, obviously with digital asset management, and then when they sort of understand what it is, often the response is, "Oh my God, that would have been so useful in my job. What, having one place to put all of our brands' digital files where I can share them with other people, and they don't have to keep asking me for logos or send me that file or anything like that. It's all there and they can self-serve. Why do we not have one of these?" And I think that was, the more that came up through the conversations with Fourth Day, the more we realised that we needed to do much more education around the piece. So I think it's, I would love to know of anybody watching.
Feel free to share in the chat, everybody.
Yeah. If you do or you don't, and in which case, if I'm massively misunderstanding this and everyone knows what it is, this is a very awkward conversation. But
so we just won't read the chat. It'll be fine.
It's absolutely fine.
We'll delete. So once you were working with us, was there anything that you found that we were able to do, or weren't able to do, that surprised you?
Well, I don't think there was anything that you weren't able to do. I've not come across that yet. So Caroline and Lee are our contacts and sort of account director and account manager with Fourth Day, and I don't think there's ever been an instance where that's been the case. I think it's always been brilliant, and I've been really surprised at the breadth of the activities. So it's never just been about press releases, and which is obviously part of it. We know we do press releases, but there have been paid opportunities. So working with the Drum, we created a research, well, actually going back to the beginning, we created a research paper so that it would help inspire and push our content further, so that we could create ebooks and things on the back of the research that we'd collected. And Fourth Day were really instrumental in actually helping us get that together, because it's quite a daunting task putting a research paper together, knowing how to structure the questions, knowing how to do any of this. If you've not done it before, well, I found it daunting anyway. And it was really invaluable, the support that we got, which was just sort of actually sitting down and working out what the questions were going to be, what the theme of the research paper was going to be, and then liaising with the research company Sapio to make that happen. And then from there, what are we going to do with this? Now that we've got this amazing piece of research, this white paper, what do we do? And then speaking to the Drum on our behalf, getting those contacts. They're the contacts that we don't have. So having someone that can sort of be the intermediary that helps out with that stuff is brilliant. But we've also had, what else have we done? Writing talks. So similarly for B2B Marketing Expo, this particular talk we're working with you, obviously feels like a bit of a you scratch my back, I scratch yours, but that wasn't the intention at the beginning.
It's also a very good symbiotic PR client relationship.
Exactly. So it's helped us with our talk, which is amazing. And we couldn't have done that without you. Again, sort of turning it around in such a short space of time, looking for speaking opportunities as well. There are things at Festival of Marketing we want to do, and having someone that, like Caroline, for example, who will just go and look at those things for us and then deliver the results back and say, actually, these are the opportunities you could speak at, and then giving us, basically doing that legwork so that we don't have to do all of it, has just been great. And I just didn't think those things were part of PR necessarily. Like I said, I think before I had quite maybe a narrow view about what was involved. But we've had lots of sort of great thought leadership pieces and things go out there, and some amazing stuff. And actually some of the pieces we've had recently in terms of being featured in The Guardian or The Times have just been amazing. So certainly I think the stuff around the research and all that sort of stuff I just wasn't expecting. So that's been great.
Oh, that's good. That's really good to hear.
Great. I mean, it's a glowing review of the company, isn't it, really, so far? But but it has been a real pleasure. I think it's just me opening my eyes to those things. And it's not, we've not been bombarded with all the things you can do. It's just been a very collaborative relationship where we talk about these sorts of opportunities and see what else is out there and how we can educate people about the brand.
I think that is a common thing we come across, is that because PR is quite a hard thing to define sometimes, what we offer one client isn't necessarily what we do for another. You have to tailor the program to fit the needs of the client to get the result they want. And one tactic may not work for one client that will work for another. So definitely. It does depend. So on that note, what would you say is the secret to a happy relationship with between an agency? What would you advise your fellow marketing tech companies?
So I've got a few things, actually. I have had a bit of a think about this because, people are probably aware that I've spoken to you a little bit before this sort of conversation, but I have had a good think about them. And I think these are things that I would recommend to anyone to sort of take on board. I mean, I was going to ask you what you thought of the secret to a happy relationship with the client is.
I'll tell you after.
All right, then fine. I'll go with mine first. So I would say, number one for me would be a strategy is essential on both sides. So, and as we experienced the first experience of a PR agency, again, not their fault, we didn't have a clue about what we were trying to achieve. There were no goals, there were no objectives. And I think it was very difficult for them to work with us on that basis. And that came from some probably naivety and not really anybody in the marketing team. It was something we'd heard we should do, but didn't know how to really approach it. So definitely strategy and regular reviews of that strategy. So not just the rolling out at the beginning and letting that sit and becoming a document that goes all stale and lives somewhere like an asset bank, for example. Not doing that, but being agile and learning to adapt it where and when necessary. So keep reviewing it like every quarter, every 6 months, and make sure that you're on track, because things change across the business all the time. And the focus of the business can change. So you need to make sure your strategy is constantly adapting as you go. I would say regular contact and meetings with clear agendas, which I've got to say Fourth Day are really good at. I don't think I've ever worked with a company that ahead of time come to me with, this is the agenda of the meeting for today. Maybe I'm just not working with the right people, I don't know. But it's very, very impressive. So I think having that is great. And we have a meeting sort of once every couple of weeks with Fourth Day. And that is just to make sure that we're checking in. There's always stuff to talk about, but sometimes they're shorter than others, but there's always a clear agenda of what we're going to look to achieve. But make sure that you're booking those meetings in for when it's going to work with you. If you need one once a month, then fine. If you need one once a week, well, maybe talk to them, but just make sure that you get those regular contact sessions put in. I would also, a really important one, I would say, is being responsive and being clear about your commitment with the PR agency. So you have to be prepared that there will be quick turnaround on things. And I think that's the nature of PR. I sort of expected it at the beginning. I prepared myself. I was ready and primed for the first request for comment to come in. And I thought, right, I'm here. And I've tried to keep that momentum up the whole time. Be responsive. If a PR agency gets in touch with you to say that they want comment from you, be really clear quickly whether you can either do it or can't do it. And if you can do it, make the effort to turn it around quickly for them. Just because I think otherwise it just would feel, I don't know, I just feel a bit rubbish about that, about not being able to respond. And it just means that you're not taking advantage of all the opportunities. And sometimes, depending on your industry, the opportunities might not come through that thick and fast. So when you get those opportunities, you need to try and take them and do the best that you can with them. So yeah, I'd say that. And then being honest and transparent, and an element of vulnerability is absolutely fine. It's not your job, as in me, it's not my job to know it all. I don't know everything. Far from it all the time. And that's why work with an agency that you can be honest with and vulnerable and say, I don't really understand that. It's their job to explain this stuff to you. And yeah, just say if you don't understand or you don't know, or ask what they do, just like I did. I have no idea whether you do programmatic advertising, something like my other digital marketing manager told me about. So I think that's a good way to be. Obviously, collaboration, I feel, is, from what I'm saying, is pretty obvious. But for me, it is a partnership. So the collaboration is essential. The more your PR agency know about you, the better chance you're going to have of getting the opportunities that you need to make for a successful campaign. Because yeah, having that understanding, I think, is key. And then my final one is a sense of humour, because for me, again, this is a partnership. It should always be a pleasure to work with each other. And also, things don't always go to plan. And you need to be aware of that, and you need to be able to be slightly more relaxed about it sometimes. Obviously, as a client, you have expectations about what you're expecting to see, but do you need to be prepared to look for the next, I suppose, like positive opportunity, and not dwell on the stuff that maybe hasn't gone as right or as well as you were hoping it to. So they would be my suggestions, and I'm hoping they're helpful, but I don't know if they'd be the same things that you would say, Xanthe.
There's a lot of overlap there. You'll be delighted to know, particularly actually that last one, because I think the personal relationship between, it's often even a sort of corporate thing if the two cultures fit well together, because if you really don't like each other, if you don't like your PR agency and you don't like the people on the team, it's going to be really hard to make it work, because not everything works every time. You've got to have a lot of give and take. And as you say, you've got to have a sense of humour. And for both sides, it really matters that you're able to have honest conversations about what's working, what's not, how to change it, and that you're not both governed by fear in any way, either fear of looking silly or fear of getting into trouble. So I think the personal relationship is a really important one. And I think actually the first one, I think you mentioned about deciding what you want to achieve and reviewing that regularly is really important from the agency's point of view. Having agreed with your client what success might look like is really important, because I'm sure most PR agencies have experienced times when they think they've done a great job and the client thought they were going to do something completely different, and everybody's unhappy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important. It just keeps you on track as well. It just makes you feel a lot more comfortable about things. And also for internal stakeholders, when they're asking you about what the strategy is and what you're looking to achieve, it makes it a lot easier to try and justify budgets and all sorts of things when you've got a clear strategy and both of you a shared understanding about what's going on. just makes you feel 10 times better about the whole thing.
And actually knowing what's going on from a PR point of view, having a constant, you mentioned the 2 weekly calls. I mean, that's so important to know what's going on in the company, because it's very easy when you're inside a company to forget that an agency outside doesn't automatically know everything that's happened. And there'll be an initiative that's being launched that everyone in the company knows about, but no one's remembered to tell the PR agencies. If we're talking regularly, it'll come out.
Yeah. So
that would definitely be a tip for me for anyone wanting to work with a PR agency. Talk to them a lot.
Yes, always.
I'm just going to add one thing, which Bright has been particularly outstanding as a client on, which is saying thank you, because that's the team have often commented on this, that they get thanked for their work, and it sounds like a simple thing, but it's really appreciated.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'm pleased about that. Good stuff. Yeah, no, we always like to, because we're grateful for the work, the hard work that goes in, because we know that behind the scenes there's a lot of squirreling away that's going on, and it's, every time I think we speak, it's always very swan-like. So, we've got this, it's fine, but I know there'll be loads of other stuff happening, and that you've got other clients to look after as well. And we always really appreciate the hard work. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Any last point you want to give to fellow marketers on venturing into the PR world?
I would, well, apart from just do it and give it a go. I just think it's been such a positive experience for us. Obviously from a corporate perspective, where we're looking at trying to get links and all that sort of stuff, but also from an internal perspective. So I work quite a lot on our employer brand as well. It's a huge focus of my work at Bright, and not just building the sort of, I suppose, I don't like to say corporate brand, because I don't really believe in that, but our Bright brand. But what we tend to find is that the amount of pride that people get from seeing, themselves, our company featured in great articles. We've done some stuff recently with Atlassian, and as I said, I mentioned before, The Guardian, that it definitely I don't know, permeates throughout the company. And I would just say, for people who have not tried PR, then to give it a bash and just ask about all of the options available. What do you do? How can you best support us? And just at least, try and take the plunge and try it for 6 months and see how you get on, or maybe a bit longer. But
but okay for a starter.
But definitely just give it a try. I think you'll be really delighted with the results, I would imagine. So that was my suggestion.
Great. Well, Vic, thank you very, very much for your time and all your comments today. And everyone should go and visit your stand, or your virtual stand, at B2B Marketing.
Absolutely. Yes, we'll be looking forward to it. I think we're really close to you, actually, funnily enough.
Oh, great. Well, we'll wave to one another across the ether.
This is getting a bit creepy, but I think we are really, really close to you.
Thanks.
Exactly. But thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for listening, everybody. Goodbye.